Britain's Brexit negotiator David Frost has launched a furious rant at the EU as talks to secure a trade deal are on the brink of collapse. Read his full speech here. Brexit talks have descended into chaos today as the UK tries to strike a free trade deal with the European Union. Britain and Brussels are locked in the third round of talks, as the UK looks to ensure a deal is agreed before the end of the transition period in December. But the latest discussions have ended in disaster. Chief negotiator David Frost launched a furious tirade against EU officials today, frustrated with the lack of progress made in the free trade deal discussions. Speaking after the talks today, he raged the EU as insisting on including a set of novel and unbalanced proposals on the so-called level playing field which would bind this country to EU law or standards. Mr. Forst warned that unless Brussels moves on this position, progress will never be made on the talks. In a furious rant, the UK chief negotiator issued a clear ultimatum. Read his speech in full below. David Frost's speech in full. We have just completed our third negotiating round with the EU, once again by video conference. I would like to thank Michel Barnier and the negotiating teams on both sides for their determination in making the talks work in these difficult circumstances. I regret, however, that we made very little progress towards agreement on the most significant outstanding issues between us. It is very clear that a standard comprehensive free trade agreement, with other key agreements on issues like law enforcement, civil nuclear, and aviation alongside, all in line with the political declaration, could be agreed without major difficulties in the time available. Both sides have tabled full legal texts, there are plenty of precedents, and there is clearly a good understanding between negotiators. The major obstacle to this is the EU's insistence on including a set of novel and unbalanced proposals on the so-called level playing field which would bind this country to EU law or standards, or determine our domestic legal regimes, in a way that is unprecedented in free trade agreements and not envisaged in the political declaration. As soon as the EU recognizes that we will not conclude an agreement on that basis, we will be able to make progress. Although we have had useful discussions on fisheries on the basis of our draft legal text, the EU continues to insist on fisheries arrangements and access to UK fishing waters in a way that is incompatible with our future status as an independent coastal state. We are fully committed to agreeing fishing provisions in line with the political declaration, but we cannot agree arrangements that are manifestly unbalanced and against the interests of the UK fishing industry. It is hard to understand why the EU insists on an ideological approach which makes it more difficult to reach a mutually beneficial agreement. We very much need a change in EU approach for the next round beginning on 1 June. In order to facilitate those discussions, we intend to make public all the UK draft legal texts during next week so that the EU's member states and interested observers can see our approach in detail. The UK will continue to work hard to find an agreement, for as long as there is a constructive process in being, and continues to believe that this is possible.